Jai Gurudev. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev. Just listening to the shlokas and the description itself is so awe-inspiring, and it is quite unimaginable how it must have been for Arjuna to actually visualize all of this.
Yeah, Hari Om. And I loved the explanation by Nanaji where he said Prahlad was not frightened because he knew from the beginning this Vishwarup. So that was very, very, I mean, it is very blissful to hear that. Very nice. Still feeling that bliss.
Prahlad is actually classified as one of the greatest of bhaktas, greatest of devotees. So all this Arjuna is seeing as a vision, and therefore what he's actually seeing is nothing but the manifest Jagat. Just that he's seeing all of this at once within Krishna, as in that is encompassing all the directions between the heaven and the earth, filling up the whole thing. The innumerable number of faces, eyes, hands, thighs, all of that. So what he's actually seeing is nothing but the Mithya Jagat, but extrapolated completely to infinity. And this is what has caused him to become fearful, because all this is such a frightful thing for him. Because see, in the Vibhuti Yoga, he was all full of devotion. He was just uh, totally inspired by a number of Vibhutis that Bhagwan had enumerated. And he himself requested, he says, I want to see this form of yours. So it was upon Arjuna's request that Krishna Bhagwan has actually showed him Vishwarupa.
Hari Om, just a noted contrast to the Vishad of the first chapter, where he was again, he is leaving his Gandiva and surrendering to Bhagwan. Compared to that, here he is able to do the stuti of Bhagwan looking at. So it is how he has evolved from that stage of Vishada to all gratitudes.
Right. And even in that shloka where he says Siddha Sanghas Tuvanti, there are people that, I think all the four kinds of devotees, so as though have been described. Artha, Jignasu, Arthati, and Jnani. So there are some who are just entering Bhagwan, there are some who are praying to him with folded hands, some are fear stricken and then praying to him. So let me share that shloka. in this amihitvam surasangha vishanti, kechid bhitaha pranjalayo grinanti, swastit maharshi siddhasanga stuvanti tvam stutibhi pushkalabhi. So there are hosts of good people, some are frightened and praying with folded hands. And there are groups of rishis and siddhas having said, let there be well-being, worship you with praises full of meanings. So to me, it felt like there are all those four classifications of devotees who are praying to him. But then again, there are quite revealing things that those in Devaloka are able to have a vision of the Vishwarupa. So all those beings that were described, all the Rudras, Adityas, Vasus, Sadhyas, Vishwadevas, Ashwinau, Maruts, Ushmapas, all of them, and the host of Gandharvas, even Asuras, Yakshas, Asuras, and Siddhas, they all are able to actually have a vision of the Vishwarupa, which is mm, so even us when we leave the mortal world, earthly world, and move up, based on the amount of punya we have, we stay on in this Devaloka for that period of time. And maybe after death, even we are able to have a look at the Vishwarupa. And it's a pity that after having looked at that, if we are still not realized, we come back to the mortal world again. Quite these shlokas were quite revealing. Anybody else wants to share? Yeah, I think Atma Bodh, we stopped at 33 yesterday, right? Or was it 36? No, we finished Nirguno Nishkriyo. I just want
Yeah.
like to share, yeah, just chant this once before we go further.
Yeah, 34 we have
We've
covered.
done, no? Yeah, I think we stopped at 36. Nirguno Nishkriyo Nityo Nirvikalpo Niranjanaha Nirvikaro Nirakaro Nityamuktosmi Nirmalaha अहमाकाशवत् सर्वं बहिरन्तर्गतोऽच्युतः सदा सर्वसमशुद्धो निस्सङ्गो निर्मलोऽचलः नित्यशुद्धविमुक्तैकम् अखण्डानन्दमद्वयम् सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं यत् परं ब्रह्माहमेव तत् I think we stopped at this, or do we? I'm not sure whether we completed this also yesterday.
36, I think, Brahmaraji.
We
36
should
verse.
start. We should start from here, no? So Nitya, eternal, Shuddha, pure, Vimukta, free, Ekam, one, Akhandanandam, indivisible bliss, Advayam, non-dual, Satyam, truth, changeless in all the three periods of time, Jnanam, knowledge, Anantam, infinite, Yat Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman, Ahameva, I alone, Tat, that. I am verily that Supreme Brahman alone, which is eternal, pure and free, one, indivisible and non-dual, and of the nature of changeless, knowledge infinite. The nature of our own self is again and again here repeated by Acharya Shankara, because constant awareness of this is the practice of knowledge, jnana abhyasa. And we have to, as true Vedantins, bring that into our own personal experience. For purposes of meditations, we need these stanzas. To contemplate over them and to feel them sincerely is the direct path to experience it. Those alone who constantly practice the control of the mind and retreat inch by inch from the dark despairs of the matter envelopments can grow more and more in their spiritual strength. This brings the glow of the God consciousness deep into their hearts. And when the ignorance, which causes the veiling of truth and the agitations of the mind, has gradually weakened, and when there is no more the eruption of the self centered egoistic thoughts of passions and sense impulses, we are awakened to the knowledge of the self. This glory in us is ever pure, eternal, and indivisible, as previously stated, and this supreme existence is truth, knowledge, absolute. Satyam, Jnanam, Anandam. Evam nirantarabhyasta brahmaivasmiti vasana haratya vidya vikshepan roganivarasayanam. Evam, thus, nirantarabhyasta, practiced constantly, Brahmaivasmi, I am Brahman, iti, does, Vasana, impression, Harati, destroys, Avidya vikshepan, ignorance and agitation caused by avidya, Rogan, disease, Iva, like, Rasayanam, medicine. The impression, I am Brahman, thus created by constant practice, destroys ignorance and the agitation caused by it, just as medicine or rasayana destroys disease. The knowledge of the identity of Brahman, Atman, above stated, when intensified by long reflection, destroys ignorance, just as medicine administered cures the disease and itself gets eliminated. Constant practice is emphasized because over a period of lives in the past, a lot of vasanas have accumulated and we have to get over them. And also, we must eliminate all our attachment and identification with our body, mind, intellect, equipment. Here, the seeker after truth should ever remember the detached nature of the pure self and thus come to give up all his identifications with his material sheets and therefore all his egocentric misconceptions about himself. It is the ego, jiva, that brings an individual again and again to bondage. And it is the ego again that keeps him bound to the world of ignorance. When the duality is removed, when even the thought, I am the Brahman, is dissolved in the all consuming knowledge of the self, there remains but one all absorbing experience of the one supreme self, eternal, infinite. This subjective experience alone is the final culmination of all spiritual seeking, because the self is not an object of cognition. It is the very light which illumines all our experiences. So, by constant jnana bhyasa, we have to eliminate all the vasanas, end the mind, and come to experience that self, which is our real essential nature. Just as the medicine we take in of its own accord gets ultimately eliminated from us, so too the experience, I am Brahman, is also dissolved in that spiritual glow. So that glow is stanza 5. In place of I am body, in case the seeker maintains the constant remembrance that I am Brahman, it will create a new set of divine vasanas, which shall act as an antidote to the egocentric vasanas. The individuality sense, jiva bhavana, brings about more and more agitations, which spiritual vasana, Brahma vasanas, quieten the thought glow. This process will continue until the last of the thoughts end, and in the supreme silence of the mind, the Brahma Vasana also ends, leaving the seeker to experience the self. This is the Brahmara Kita Nyayam, they say. You keep, instead of saying, I am the body, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the ego, intellect, all the other 6 different sheets of our layers of existence. Instead of that, you keep telling yourself, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. And then that vasana also, even that last thought also ends, leaving the seeker to experience the self. So long as we are not asleep, we try to sleep. But when we reach sleep, all efforts end by themselves. Vivikta desha asinaha virago vijitendriyaha bhavayeda भावयेदेकमात्मानं तमनन्तमनन्यधीः. Vivikta deshe, in a solitary place, asina, seated, viragaha, free from desires, vijitendriyaha, controlling the senses, bhavayet, meditate, tam, that, ekam, one, atmanam, self, anantam, boundless, ananyadhihi, with unswerving attention. Sitting in a solitary place, freeing the mind from desires and controlling the senses, meditate with unswerving attention on the Atman, which is one without a second. This is exactly what we do in an advanced course. No? And this rings a bell with chapter 6, I think, in the Dhyana Yoga, where Bhagwan talks of this. Ekaki yata chittatma. I'm not sure that's in the chapter 6 or chapter 4. Ekaki yata chittatma rahasistitaha. So sitting alone in a solitary place with oneself, keeping your mind with you. The path of meditation, which takes you face to the reality, is explained here. Sitting in a lonely place with no disturbances around you, with no agitations of the mind, or any wild roamings of the intellect, leaving behind all mental emotions and intellectual thoughts, which generally make the corner you sit noisy with your thundering desires and roaring expectations, and with the sense organs, indriyas, now brought perfectly under your own control, identify the self indicated above as your own nature. This is meditation. Make it real. Meditate without any other thought in your mind in that quiet and sequestered atmosphere. Meditate upon that infinite Atman, which is one without a second. Be bold to assert the holy idea in that lonely intellectual field which transcends the concept of time, that you are that very same supreme being which is all pervading, pure and eternal. This self transformation is called bhavana. Bhavana, it is very difficult to find even an appropriate word in English for the Sanskrit term bhavana. It is not a mere intellectual appreciation, nor is it a mere emotional wooing, and yet it is both. When both the functions of the intellect, thinking, and the functions of the mind, feeling, are harmoniously woven together, we get the heart and its function, the bhavana. The ardent coatings of the intellect and the mind end in their marriage at the altars of the heart. And the joy of this nuptial is bhavana. I'm so amazed at Swami Chinmayananda's, description. He's so descriptive. He's so
Yes.
imaginative in the way he mentions. This is the journey um, from the mind to the heart. So beautiful. So where the intellect and the mind, when they come together, the that ends in their marriage at the altars of the heart. Mm. आत्मन्येवाखिलं दृश्यं प्रविलाप्यधिया सुधीः भावयेदेकमात्मानं निर्मलाकाशवत् सदा. Atmanyeva, in the Atman alone, Akhilam, entire, Drishyam, world of objects, Pravilapya, merging, Dhiya, by his intelligence, Sudhihi, wise man, Bhavayet, should think, Ekam, one, Atmanam, the self, Nirmala Kashavat, like the stainless or pure sky, Sada, constantly. The wise one should intelligently merge the entire world of objects in the Atman alone and constantly think of the self ever as contaminated by anything as the sky. Maybe this is as uncontaminated by anything as the sky. Maybe it's a typo there. Intelligent discrimination is the core of a seeker's success in truth discovering. When he has realized the supremacy of the self, does the outer world exist for him? If not, why is it so? How does it happen? The pure intellect, in its light of discrimination, has brought for the seeker the truth experience. In that light of discrimination, if we analyze and withdraw ourselves completely from the matter envelopments, we should thereafter have no more occasion to mourn over the past, agitate at the present, or worry for the future. There can be no more any wrong perceptions of the truth for us. When we cross over the frontiers of our dream experiences, the dream world with all its things merge into our own mind, and the same dreamer now rediscovers himself to be the waker. Likewise, the pure awareness in me, which illumines for me the objects of the outer world, merges back upon itself when the world of plurality is not recognized. When the mind is single pointed, it has no accommodation for anything else. Just as the dream world has gone back and merged into the very mind that dreamt the dream, so too the world of perceptions ends in the experience of the Atman, the illuminator of all finite experiences. I just want to read this one shloka, this paragraph again. The pure intellect in its light of discrimination, before that, intelligent discrimination is the core of a seeker's success in truth discovery. So that viveka is so important. When he has realized the supremacy of the self, does the outer world exist for him? If not, why is it so? How does it happen? So these are things that we will have to ponder over and do vichara and contemplate upon. The pure intellect in its light of discrimination has brought for the seeker the truth experience. In that light of discrimination, if we analyze and withdraw ourselves completely from the matter envelopments, we should thereafter have no more occasion to mourn over the past, agitate at the present, or worry for the future. There can be no more any wrong perceptions of the truth for us. So in a sense, it is like living in the moment, living in the present. Yeah. Shall we continue Atma Bodh tomorrow from shloka 40? So we'll begin Bhagavad Gita chanting. I think Vijay ji.
Yeah, Jai Gurudev.
Yeah, shall I share the Gita Dayananda verses? I think better to share Dayananda ji's verses, because those who do not understand, those who cannot follow Sanskrit, at least they have the English version, because in the Gita press thing, it is only the Sanskrit version. So we'll start with this. Yeah. One second, let me share the screen. You can go, you can get started, Vijay ji.
Okay. Jai Gurudev. This is a maiden effort. So if there are mistakes, please forgive. Just trying to learn Sanskrit. So trying. Okay. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Saptamodhyayah Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Saktamanah Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasyasi Tachrunu Jnanam Teham Savijnanam Idam Vakshamya Sheshatah Yagyatva Neha Bhuyonyat ज्ञातव्यम् अवशिष्यते मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेति तत्त्वतः भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा अपरेयमि तस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव रसोऽहम् अप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दखे पौरुषं नृषु पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम् बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितम् धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ ये चैव सात्विका भावाः राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धिः न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैः एभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् दैवी हेषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञानाः आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जनाः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्थो जिज्ञासुतर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभ तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्तः एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः उदारा सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् बहूनां जन्मनाम् अन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्ते न्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विद्धधाम्यहम् सतया श्रद्धया युक्तः तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च तथ कामान् मयैव विहितान् हितान् अन्तवत्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसां देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति मामपि अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते माम बुद्धयः परं भावमजानन्तः ममाव्ययमनुत्तमम् नाहं प्रकाश सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम् वेदाहं समतीतानि वर्तमानानि चार्जुन भविष्याणि च भूतानि मां तु वेद न कश्चन इच्छाद्वेषसमुत्थेन द्वन्द्वमोहेन भारत सर्वभूतानि सम्मोहं सर्गे यान्ति परन्तप येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं जनानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ताः भजन्ते मां दृढव्रताः जरामरणमोक्षाय मामाश्रित्य यतन्ति ये ते ब्रह्म तद्विदुः कृत्स्नम् अध्यात्मं कर्म चाखिलम् साधिभूताधिदैवं मां साधियज्ञं च ये विदुः प्रयाणकालेऽपि च मां ते विदुर्युक्तचेतसः ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगो नाम सप्तमोऽध्यायः। ओम जय गुरुदेव।
Savita ji, are you there?
Yes.
You can carry on.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Atha Ashtamodhyayah. Arjuna Uvacha. Kim tatraham kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutai cha kim proktam adhidevam kimuchyate adhiyagya katham kotra dehesmin madhusudanaha prayanakale cha kathai jneyosi niyatatmabhihi Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Dhyatma Muchyate Buddha Bhavo Dhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangitaha Adi Bhutang Sharo Bhava पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियोग्यहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां वर अन्तकाले च मामेव समरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरम् यः प्रयाति समद्भावम् याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावन् त्यज्यन्ते कलेवरम् तन्तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मर युध्य च मयि अर्पितमनो बुद्धिर्मामे वैश्यस्य संशयम् अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन् कविं पुराणमनुशासितारम् अणोरणीयां समरेद्यः सर्वस्य धातारमचिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमवेश्य समयक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम् यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यो वीतरागाः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्ये चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनो हृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्याध्यायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणाम् ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम् अनन्यचेता सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयमशाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः आब्रह्म भुवनालोका पुनरावृत्तिनोऽर्जुन मामुपेत्य तु कौन्तेय पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते सहस्रयुगपर्यन्तम् अहर्यद्ब्रह्मणो विदुः रात्रिं युगसहस्रान्तां देहोरात्रविदो जनाः
अव्यक्ताद्व्यक्तय सर्वाः
अव्यक्ताद्व्यक्तय सर्वाः प्रभवन्त्यहरागमे रात्रयागमे प्रलीयन्ते तैत्रवाव्यक्तसंज्ञके भूतग्रामस एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्रयागमे वशः पार्थ प्रभवत्यहरागमे परस्तस्मातु भावन्यो व्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यस्य सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति अव्यक्तोऽक्षर इत्युक्तस्तमाहुः परमां गतिम् यं प्राप्य न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम पुरुषः स पार्थ भक्त्या लभ्यस्त्वनन्यया यस्यां स्थानि भूतानि येन सर्वमिदं ततम् यत्र काले त्वनावृत्तिम् आवृतं चैव योगिनः प्रयाता यान्ति तं कालं वक्ष्यामि भरतर्षभ अग्निर्ज्योतिरः शुक्लषण्मासा उत्तरायणम् तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्मविदो जनाः धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्ण षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसै ज्योतिर्योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गति येते शुक्लकृष्णे गति योते जगत शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते स्थिति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रतिष्ठम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम् ओम तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्म विद्यायां योग शास्त्रे श्री कृष्णार्जुन संवादे अक्षर ब्रह्म योगो नाम अष्टमोऽध्यायः। ओम श्री कृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
अथ नवमोऽध्यायः राजविद्या राजगुह्ययोगः श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्। Jai Gurudev. Very well chanted, both of you. And Vijayji, for your first time, you've done such a wonderful job. Really, very good.
धन्यवाद.
Yes, Hari Om, Dhanyavad. Very
Yeah.
well chanted, both of them.
It is very customary because Gita is like a unending, it's knowledge and it's an unending stream. We don't normally end a chapter. We always take the first shloka of the next chapter. It's like it's a continuation. Tomorrow, I think Madhuri ji and anyone else who wants to chant chapter 10 can come forward. I think Sheila ji wanted. So both of them can chant tomorrow. Although the people are leading, all of us also, let's follow the text and do our own chanting as we follow the chant.
Jai Gurudev, if nobody is,
Beautiful chanting.
I will take the opportunity for
Yeah,
10.
yeah. Sheila ji, you go ahead and chant chapter 10. Madhuri ji wanted to chant 9.
Yeah.
So tomorrow,
Yes.
both of you can do. Okay.
Jai Gurudev.
Om
Jai Gurudev.
Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti 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 Sarvam Krishna